it would have been a major problem if they'd have been dropped on the first 5 kilometres of the Col d'Aubisque, Sean, because then you've got another great big climb to get over, and then it starts to become touch and go.
Well, yes, with the Aubisque you still have 143 kilometres
exactly.
to go, so and you could lose 6, 8 minutes, 10 minutes if there was a big battle on the Aubisque leading into it. So in that situation, I think they should be pretty safe today, except for somebody who is suffering really big time and not feeling well. Sprinters, they could have difficulty staying the bus, but I think for the big bus, for the make the time, it should not be a problem at all.
It's Christian Knaes leading the ever strong Edvald Bosenhagen, then Michael Rogers, then the yellow jersey of Bradley Wiggins. Just enough pace to stop anybody thinking about doing anything daft at the front of the peloton here. This is back at the head of the race with Sergio Paulinho. Rui Costa now riding up to the back of the group with Vladimir Karpat's already made it. It's coming all back together just a little bit, Sean. Maybe, I don't know what, half of them, a little bit more than half now in this leading group.
Yes, and that tells the pace is slowing down a bit, because okay, some riders can make that calculation, get into the climb and not go too deep in the first 2 kilometres, get into your rhythm, because it is a long climb, the Tourmalet, 19 kilometres, so you have to be careful not to blow up the engine in the first 2 kilometres. But there's a lot of riders coming back here, and that tells me that they're not pushing on as they should be. And again, we did see on the front of that breakaway there was a lot of looking about, riders looking at each other, who's going to do the pulling. And I suppose the interesting thing is, depending on what way, it seems to be a tailwind for the moment, but again, when they start to turn about, if there's a little bit of a headwind, that will change the thing a lot, because a lot of riders will want to just sit in and get carried along as far as possible into this stage.
Als Ferré coming up to the group again. And there's a few riders who'll be aware of the sound of that river as they ride past it. But when you're really on the limit, Sean, when you're feeling as though you almost can't turn a pedal any faster, and you've got to hang into that group, do you become aware of all those other things around you, like gushing water and crowds and cheering? Is it anything to distract you, or does it make it worse?
Well, I think when you're close to the river there and the water, it's just a little bit cooler as you go very close to the water. And if there's a waterfall close by, you just can feel that little drop in temperature, and it's a lovely feeling. And I remember in my day when you're climbing here and it's just boiling and you hear the waterfall, you just look over there and you say, would not be lovely just to get under that for a moment. But again, you have to continue on and keep your concentration. And I think you have to think and say, well, if we're in a breakaway here, everybody is suffering, and that's what you keep on telling yourself. Everybody is suffering quite a lot, and just hang on, keep hanging.
It seems like a fairly nice tailwind at the moment, and you do feel it, don't you, Sean? When you've got a bit of a tailwind behind you, you do feel it.
Yes, and of course with the tailwind sometimes it can be that much warmer again, because you're moving along at a fast pace, and with the tailwind the body temperature seems to be that bit more. And of course, the ones who are riding on the front they're a bit stronger, and with the tailwind, well, they can go very fast. And if you're the weaker one in the group, that makes it that bit more difficult. The headwind, of course, it slows the stronger guys down. And if you can stay there in the slipstream, it's possible to hang in there. But with the tailwind, they can really make you suffer.
Just a quick word for Jack Towell. He said he got HD last year and thought, well, that's not much different. Then he had cataracts operation and got some new specs, and he says, it's amazing. It is amazing.
That helps.
It does.
Thomas Voeckler looking across the right-hand side. often just rides out from the group and looks back at everyone else. Wiggins happy to sit on the front of this group, putting a bike length between himself and others. Alessandro Vanotti of Liquigas dropping back. Manuel Cinziato also. It's not too surprising. Vanotti good for the flats, as is Cinziato. Very, very strong indeed. Other riders having trouble carrying it. Nick Noyens, the Belgian, and this is Christophe Kern. Christophe Kern going up the road. Now this may be a tactic for Pierre Rolland a little later. We've seen Christophe Kern help Pierre Rolland, and as we come towards the top here of the Col du Tourmalet, closer towards the top, Brice Felieux has decided to put the hammer down. Saugesson really wants something out of this. He's been a winner before, as Brice Felieux in his debut tour into Arcalis and Andorra. But Dan Martin, quick to see that that's a move they can go with. He instigated the initial move, and Thomas Voeckler saying I'm going to go with that one as well, because he's vying for the mountains classification. Maybe he'll be working with those two to try and pull out a gap over Fredrik Kessiakoff, and that strung them all out again. Daniel Martin's going to make some people hurt here, Sean.
Yes, he is, and he's been trying to do it from the very beginning of this Col du Tourmalet. Immediately when it kicked up, he was the one who put in, the injection of pace and blew that group to pieces very quickly, and working quite hard at it here. As we see Kessiakoff,
he doesn't want that, does he?
He is reacting, and he has to stay close to Thomas Voeckler, because if Voeckler gets away with the three riders, well then he takes maximum points. That's what Kessiakoff cannot allow. He has to just stay with Voeckler and over the top. If he cannot beat him, be in his wheel and be in the next place to Voeckler, to minimise the number of points he's going to lose here.
We know that the Kessiakoff's getting better than we've ever seen him go, to be honest. I mean, usually on a stage like today, in the past, as he's coming up to this, he's managed to get over one, maybe 1.5, 2 climbs, and then he sort of blows to bits. And Voeckler's just sort of toying with him here.
Yes,
just playing with him.
Playing a bit, leaving the gap open a little bit to see will Kessiakoff come round him, and then just accelerating back to the wheel of the 2 leaders.
Thomas Voeckler, on the other hand, we know has got grit and determination in absolute spades. Chris Anker Sorensen, the loser here. There's Michele Scarponi at the rear of the peloton. We were talking about Lampre a little earlier, and he said he was tired. The man who looks like a sort of cycling leather handbag sometimes, with grit all over his face, got that lined, craggy face. Always looks much older than he actually is. But now, just beginning to tail off the back. He's more than tired, Sean. He's absolutely plumb knackered.
Yes, losing contact this time, it tells that he's really suffering, as we see. Perrault.
Surprisingly. Well, Oreste hasn't helped Scarponi or Perrault. Oh dear. Kessiakoff losing a bit of ground here to Thomas Voeckler. This is the thing that we always worry about with Kessiakoff. Will he self-destruct in the end? I think he's realised he can't live with that sort of game playing, Sean, and he's just got to ride at his own pace. Yes,
well, it's going to be interesting now to see has he really dug in just a bit too deep in the earlier parts and paid the price big time. That is possible. He wanted to stay close to Voeckler, but again, Voeckler is the one where he can make those sudden accelerations so much on the climb. He can really blow you, and Kessiakoff now has to just put it together and try get in with the next riders coming up. 2 or 3 riders going to make contact with him. He has to get on the wheel there with those riders, otherwise it's going to be a real danger one to hold on to this mountain classification jersey.
Christophe Kern goes past Samuel Dumoulin, throws him a look and thinks, where on earth are you going? There's been a lot of that with Christophe Kern. I must be here for a job, Sean. Must be.
Yes, well, he has to be here for a job, and we've seen him on the days before a rest day on the flat, not able to follow in the bunch at times, losing contact, and here we are again in the mountains, as he did in the Alps. Impressive, riding with a breakaway. When Pierre Roland won, he was the man who just did that enormous work on the day, and he has to be going out here. I think we might see Pierre Roland trying to come across to him, because the breakaway at the moment, it's so far out, I don't see him, that has been the tactic.
Thomas Voeckler gritting his teeth and nodding. Yes, I've got him. Yes. Fredrik Kessiakoff is not capable of staying with that sort of pace. And at the moment, it looks like Chris Anker Sorensen, Lawrence Ten Dam, amongst others. And I think Hincapie, unbelievably, are riding up to the rear wheel of Fredrik Kessiakoff. And if that's the case, Kessiakoff will just have to hang in there, as you say, Sean, because he's got to go round them when they get to the top of the climb and get those points. And Chris Anker Sorensen won't want that. So he could lose out quite a bit here.
Yes, I think it is quite possible that he will lose out. And again, will Kessiakoff be able to stay with the riders coming up? Hincapie, Ten Dam, that is the question, because I feel that he has really, push it a bit too much in the earlier part and starting to pay the price. The question, can he recover now and continue on? And if he cannot do that, well, then he's going to be in big danger of losing the mountain classification.
Yeah, he's now in behind George Hincapie. George Hincapie is going to bury himself today. Later on. Must be a Cadel Evans day, or is he going to try and take the day himself? Who knows? He's got people up the road. Christoph Kern, when you see him, he's going so well. He's got the lightweight climbing wheels on. And you see, clearly a plan. Some people have just brought us a very nice small can of Coke, exactly the same size as they have in the musettes, which is tiny.
And they say it's for the Col de Peresod.
Really? 63 calories? I might need it by then. That's what it is. There we go. I shall tell you when I get. I shall open it in the microphone. People will know. 82k. This is just such an icon of the Tour de France, the Tourmalet. I think the Alpe d'Huez is probably the only other big icon that stands close to this or above it. For the Pyrenees, this is the iconic climb, Sean.
Yes,
Tourmalet.
Yes, it certainly is. And as you said, the Pyrenees, immediately Tourmalet springs to mind. And when you think of the Alps, Alpe d'Huez, of course, is the big one. And it's one of these climbs when you get to it at this point in the race, when we're into 2.5 weeks of racing, that's when you can see the cracks coming, and the interesting one now will be to see, will we see some of the bigger riders having difficulty? We have seen Scarponi, of course, Perrault, who are very good climbers, and when they're not really on a good day, they can still limit their losses. But we can see out front here in the front group, Voeckler really pushing on.
Dan Martin now beginning to suffer the pace of Thomas Voeckler and Brice Feliu. Brice Feliu has not had the best of Tour. He had a stomach bug at the beginning of the Tour, and all power to him to have hung in here, Sean, because he could have gone home like so many other riders do, but they said to him, right, you can't eat with us, you're isolated, literally you're in quarantine, and we'll see what happens. But Sarre-Sogesson must be biting their nails down to the quick here, because they have had nothing yet from this Tour.
No, nothing in these stages, in the earlier days of the race, but Brice Feliu, of course, he will be the one they'd be expecting to do something in the mountains, but from being very sick, and he was really on touch and go to stay in the race for many days, recovered quite well, but not enough for the Alpine stages, and now he's certainly in the form we would normally see him in these big stages to get into a breakaway, and looking very strong. And the last number of days he has been looking better. We've seen him a bit more, and certainly today he looks to be in good shape for the moment.
He does indeed. He won the stage into Arcalis and from Andorra on his debut tour, and he was hailed as the next big French climber. He was then bought, along with his brother, Romain Feliu, the sprinter, by Vacansoleil. They went to Vacansoleil the following year in the hope that Vacansoleil, I think, would get a berth in the Tour de France with two big French heroes in it, but they didn't. And it was really a bit of a nothing year for them, Sean. I think Romain had a much better year than Brice Feliu, and he's had a couple of years of underperformance, really, against his potential.